Hey guys, welcome back to Based MMA. Make sure to like and subscribe the video. It really helps my videos, get out there. It really helps the algorithm for my channel. So please make sure to do that, guys. And for this video, this is going to be a fun one, guys, because I'm going to build UFC 295 and UFC 296. So the November card that takes place in Madison Square Garden, and UFC 296 that most likely is going to be in Las Vegas. And obviously we already know the main event for UFC 295, which is Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. But I still think that regardless of this fight being headlined by Jon Jones and Stipe, I think this card still needs to be stacked, and there has to be a lot of good fights on this card. And the UFC tends to put a lot of good fights in the Madison Square Garden card. They usually stack those cards with at least 3 title fights, and if there's only 2, usually they're really good title fights. So starting off with UFC 295, obviously headlined by Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Very exciting heavyweight bout. There's a lot. It's a legacy bout. Yes, is it the most competitive matchup? Probably not, but who knows? Maybe Stipe Miocic could shock the world, and maybe these 2 years that he hasn't been fighting, he's been practicing, he's been getting better, he's been rejuvenated, maybe he's been recovering from all those wars. So who knows, right? Who knows? Stipe Miocic can shock the world, but let's be totally honest here. Jon Jones is most likely going to end up winning that matchup. Now, we still don't know the co-main event for UFC 295. And I don't think this is a mystery to anybody. I don't think this is going to shock anyone. But I really do believe that the UFC should do everything in their power to make Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington for the welterweight title as the co-main event of UFC 295. I just think that the press conference, the build-up with someone like Colby Covington, who's going to talk a lot of trash, that's going to have a lot of highlight moments, the lead-up to this card is going to be incredibly exciting if you have Colby Covington. Because if you put Leon Edwards versus somebody else, like Leon Edwards by himself, he's not a draw. He's not a draw. And Stipe Miocic also by himself is not a draw. This is not a guy that likes to, sell the fight and talk a lot of trash and really make it entertaining for the fans. So I think this card desperately needs Colby Covington. And what a better place for Colby Covington to fight for the title again than Madison Square Garden. So yes, please UFC, make Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington as the co-main event for UFC 295. Now, I believe I'm going to add in another title fight on this card. And this other title fight is a woman title fight. And I think it should be Juliana Pena versus Pennington as a title fight. Now, I know this is not a fight that's going to be very exciting. But let's be honest. At least Juliana Pena, she's going to bring it in the press conference. She's going to talk smack. And that by itself, regardless of whether you hate Juliana Pena, it's going to be entertaining. You're going to be entertained in the press conference. And this is also a fight on the card that, you're going to go take a bathroom break. Or, it might end up being exciting. Who knows? But I feel like if you add this fight to the card, I'd rather this fight be added to like a stacked card than it being like a headliner or a co-main event of another pay-per-view. So I think they should add Juliana Pena versus Pennington 2 on this card. I believe, have they fought? I don't know if they fought. So I think they have fought. I think they might have fought already, so it might be 2, but I think it's number 1. Now, that being said, so 3 title fights for UFC 295. Now let's finish off the rest of the main card. Now I think this fight can be very exciting, and I hope the UFC makes it. They should add Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Pavlovich to UFC 295. Why should they do this? 1, if Stipe Miocic fights pulls out, you could add in Tom Aspinall to step in, or something happens with the main event. Tom Aspinall and Sergey Pavlovich could headline this card, or it could be the co-main event to Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington. Who knows? But I think Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Pavlovich is an incredible heavyweight bout. I think Tom Aspinall needs to stop ducking Sergey Pavlovich, because Sergey Pavlovich is on a 5-fight KO streak in the first round. This guy absolutely deserves to be in a number 1 contender spot or fight for the title. So I think this is a fight to make. It just makes sense, right? We're headlined by a heavyweight bout. You add in the number 1 contender, Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Pavlovich. Is an incredible fight, and I think it should be on this card, in the main card. Now, the first fight of the main card, I believe, should be Kamaru Usman versus Stephen Thompson. And this is a fight that we've heard rumors about. We've heard rumors of Kamaru Usman wanting to fight Stephen Thompson and Stephen Thompson agreeing. I think this is a good fight for Kamaru Usman. It's an interesting matchup. Kamaru Usman is still kind of a relevant name, so the casuals are going to know, oh wow, Kamaru Usman is on this card. So I think it's a good fight to add to the main card. And yeah, guys, I think this card overall is incredible. UFC 295, that would be the perfect UFC 295 in my opinion. Make this card UFC. John Jones versus Stipe Miocic, Leon Edwards versus Colby Covington, Juliana Pena versus Pennington, Tom Aspinall versus Sergey Pavlovich, and starting off the main card, Kamaru Usman versus Stephen Thompson. Let's go. That should be the fight. Now on to UFC 296, guys. And if the UFC 296, if the UFC does what I think they're going to do for UFC 296, this might end up being one of the greatest cards of all time. Now, I'm going to put a little bit of a caveat because I'm leaning, I believe that Conor McGregor is not going to end up fighting at UFC 296. But I'm going to give you two versions of UFC 296. One with Conor McGregor and one without Conor McGregor. Now, I'm going to start off with the card, with the December card, if Conor McGregor does not end up fighting on this card. And I think if Conor McGregor ends up, not being able to fight in the December card, I believe that UFC 296 should be headlined by Yuri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira for the light heavyweight title. This is just an incredible fight. I mean, this is a fighter's fight. Like, who wouldn't want to watch Yuri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira? Regardless of what you think of the light heavyweight division, this is an incredible fight. This is going to be a banger, most likely fight of the year. Someone's going to get slept. Someone's going to get knocked out and finished badly. And I want to see it. And I want to see it this year. I don't want to wait until next year. So make Yuri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira. And for the co-main event, make this fight, guys. This is gonna be an amazing card. Just hear me out. Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria for the featherweight title as the co-main event of this card. This fight is just incredible, guys. Ilia Topuria has a lot of hype. Volkanovski just dominated Yair Rodriguez. Even though I think this might be a quick, rise to the title for Ilia Topuria, I still think that he might be able to be the guy to beat Volkanovski. But I will still lean heavily on Volkanovski. But I think regardless, Volkanovski versus Topuria is going to be a very exciting fight. Like, Topuria is very good on the feet, has great Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I think this is just a fight that the fans want to see. And we've heard that Volkanovski wants to be active, so I think that's the fight to make next. Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria as a co-main event, and just those two fights alone make UFC 296 absolutely incredible, guys. But I'm not done. I'm not done dropping the heat, I'm about to cook even more. Now, there should be another title fight, and this is not going to be a surprise to anybody because this has been talked about now that Sean O'Malley has become champion. Let's make Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera 2 as the third title fight on this card. And wow, this card will sell crazy with just an amazing card. Like, I know that Yuri Prochazka is not like a crazy name, but for the more hardcore MMA fans, hardcore UFC fans, you're going to be incredibly excited for the main event. But you still have Sean O'Malley in this card versus Chito Vera 2. And yeah, this card might be crazy. Maybe this card is impossible, but I think the UFC can get it done. Now, we have Sean O'Malley versus Chito Vera 2. Incredible fight. The rematch. Sean O'Malley is a star now that he's won the title. But I'm not done with this card. Now, another fight they should add to the main card of UFC 296 is Gilbert Burns versus Dustin Poirier. Banger. Added to UFC 296. Incredible fight. Banger. Two guys that, put it all on the line. One of the two baddest motherfuckers in the game. Make Gilbert Burns versus Dustin Poirier. I really do believe that there's nothing for Dustin Poirier to do at 155. Unless he wants to fight rising contenders. I don't think he really wants to do that. I think he wants to fight exciting matchups. Gilbert Burns is coming off his loss to Bilal Muhammad, where he suffered a lot of injuries. Dustin Poirier is coming off a KO loss. And I think this is a time to make Gilbert Burns versus Dustin Poirier matchup. It'd be incredibly exciting. Add it to the main card of UFC 296, and you have an exciting card right there, guys. But I'm not done. because I'm still gonna add a bantamweight title fight to start off the main card of UFC 296, and that's gonna be Merab versus Triple C. Merab versus Henry Cejudo. I think that's the fight to make. I think whoever ends up winning that fight should be next after Corey Sandhagen. But I think this is a fight to make. I think this is a very good stylistic fight for Henry Cejudo. It's a fight that's very exciting. A grappler versus grappler. Get rid of one of the grapplers in the bantamweight division. So I think this is a fight to make. I think Merab also has a really good chance of beating Henry Cejudo. I think Henry Cejudo is a little bit older in his career, guys. But anyway, that was my perfect way to end UFC 2023. I think this would be the perfect cards to end off the year. And obviously I think they should still stack the prelims, but those are just my thoughts on what they should do for the main cards of UFC 295 and 296. I also believe even UFC 294 could use some help. I think they should add maybe like an Armin Saryukin versus Dariush to the Abu Dhabi card. Maybe add a couple more fights to that card to really stack it up, guys. And I just feel like the UFC should really stack these pay-per-views to like as much as they can. Now, I know I just gave you UFC 296 assuming that Conor McGregor is not going to fight on this card, but let's assume that Conor McGregor somehow, you know, they let him roid up and he doesn't have to go through USADA because it's Conor McGregor. He's able to fight on the December card. Now, that's what I would do. I would get rid of the Yuri Prochazka fight versus Alex Pereira and move it to January. Do Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler, Alexander Volkanovski versus Ilia Topuria, and Sean O'Malley. So the only thing I would change for that card, I think Alexander Volkanovski would be willing to be the co-main event to a Conor McGregor card. And I think Sean O'Malley would also, like, I feel like these guys would put their pride down and be like, man, we're going to have so many eyeballs with Conor McGregor as the main event versus Michael Chandler. A very exciting fight. Make that fight happen. Stack these cards, UFC. Like, just make it happen. And I think they would be a great, amazing way to end off the year. And regardless of whether Conor McGregor ends up fighting this year, I think that, I mean, personally, if I'm being honest, I prefer Yuri Prochazka versus Alex Pereira than Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. I know a lot of you casuals are not going to agree with that because you love Conor McGregor and you can't wait for his return, but I think Conor McGregor is way past his prime. I think the guy is just not taking the sport seriously, and I don't really think that, you know, Chandler versus Conor McGregor is like this super exciting fight. You know, I think most likely the fight itself is going to be exciting, but I don't even think the build-up is going to be that exciting. So yeah, guys, those are my, you know, cards for UFC 295, UFC 296 that would really help, you know, the UFC rise to a different level to really give the fans exactly what they want, guys. But please make sure to comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on my cards that I just built for UFC 295 and UFC 296. And I hope you guys have a good one.